Well, we're all ready to begin. I've got my reference picture. I've taped that to a piece of card. It gives it a bit more rigidity. And we'll be moving it around, you'll see, as we proceed. Good idea, too, to have the instructions. Now, I know we're giving you the video, but it's a good idea to have these as well. You can read them through, first of all, just give you an idea of what I'm going to be doing and what you'll need to do. Put pencils at the ready, colour shaper and rubber. We need it. So we're all set to go. So let's get the show on the road. Now we're going to start by using the white pencil. Reference picture as close as you can. And you make a strong application where it's indicated. That's here, here and here. You can press quite hard because we won't be putting any colours on top of this, so we don't have to worry about crushing the paper, which is possible if you overdo it. So go around there, and we'll show you all of this. Now here, try using the pencil like I am here, rather than pointing. Just use the side of the pencil. You get a good pressure, and it's a nice effect too. You can get like that. Don't worry about the marks; they're all going to disappear. And now that one stretches down. You could, in fact, stretch that down. I think probably. We're not doing this section yet, but it's a good idea just to continue it. Then we contain the ear now. Now the hair inside the ear, again, hold the pencil like this, and you can twist the pencil as well, you see. It's much more manoeuvrable if you do that. And you can turn your hand and twist your hand so that you get the hair working in the direction that you want it to be. You don't want too much down here at the moment, not strong hair. And what I'm doing is still pressing very hard because I want to establish those light hairs. Right, now we also put another application. This is a much lighter application. And you see what I'm using around circular movement now, slightly different to what I was using before. Now we've covered all of the ear, except that bit there. I wouldn't worry about that at the moment. That's lovely. Now, if you have one of these, you can use it like this. If you haven't got one of these, don't worry. But you can just use the colour shaper just to push in the colour. And this is coming useful when we bring the stronger colours in. What we're doing is just covering the paper. You see what I mean? You can't now see any of that pastel paper coming through. Okay, now next we're using the 182. Now this can go in where we've just put the white. Don't press too hard at the moment. All we're doing is pressing gently and cutting into the white. You'll see when I finish this, you'll see how attractive this is going to start looking already. Yeah. This is when you can also come in here. Now I haven't put any white under here because it's very dark. It wouldn't matter if you did, but I've got a light area there. Can you see that little light area there? We'll just put that in there like that. Okay, and we can continue along here like that. Now this is also where we have the white hair in the ear and on the top of the head. So be careful here. Don't put too strong a colour in. And then that can work its way up like this. Now this is pretty straightforward, I think you'll agree. I wouldn't bother to blend this as I did before, just leave it like that for the moment. Okay, now it does state that you can also use the white again. Now the reason we say that is because it blends, so let me do that. But to be honest, we wouldn't really have to do that once we use the blender as I have, but anyway, we will do it as it says so on the instructions, because the white is a natural blender anyway, and what it does, as you can see, it just blends that nicely in. Right, now what we're going to do before we finish the inside of the ear, let's go around the outside of the ear. And what I'm going to use is the 182 again, which we've just used, and I'm just going to go on that line. Now you're going on the outside edge of that line. Might as well do inside as well. Take a bit of care here because you don't want to stretch it into the background. It does say you did. Oh dear, what have I done? Well, this is where the pastel paper is really good because you can actually erase it. Now, don't do this earlier, but it you can see how easy it comes off. So there we are. Now we've gone down the outside of the ear. Now we're using, for the first time, we're using the 273, which is a really nice grey. It's a warm grey, and that comes on the outside. Don't press hard though. Just need to put an outside layer on, like that. Leave it for the minute because we can come back to that in a tick, but what we've got to do is darken here. You can see it's a lot darker. So what we do now is use the 182 again with just a little more strength. Let me just do a little bit here, and then I can show you the reason we're doing it like that now. You see it's darker than that one. That's the 175. It's this colour. And that can come on top of it, giving us a lot more strength. Right? Now it's at this stage, if you wish, and I think it's a good idea to use the colour shaper again. Just use your finger just to take off the pastel that you've got there. And just rub that in, and you can see that it looks really, really much like that there. Not quite the same, but I'll show you the difference it will be. Just in there too, might as well do that. Worry about it. Okay, now I'm going to do the rest of the ear like that, but I want to show you how we can now bring the 182 back, which gives us this bit. Whoops, and the 175, which gives us that bit. Now that is identical to that now. And in here we can, no need to use the 182 again. We've now got a nice strong colour. Okay, now while I've got this in my hand, let's now do the outside edge. You can see how fierce this is if you don't get it right. Like that. Now go around there, carefully go around the outside edge, because we won't be coming back in here again. I'm going to introduce you to a background as well for this. Which makes it look that much more attractive, as you can see. And it's not that hard to do, although people do find it difficult. Okay, that's good. Now before we go on, I'm going to suggest you use the 273 here. Now the reason I'm doing that, you see it's not all white. So what we do now is use the 273, similarly to we use the white, but it's a little lighter this time, because we're putting some shading into the fur, like that, and that can also be put in there as well. You could just use the 182 like I did down here, but I think it's a nice idea to put a little bit of the grey in as well. Now that looks good. And now we're using the 182, which we used here. You can see it in evidence. finish that off. Now that's finished off with the 182. Now I'm going to use 187. We haven't used this yet. It's very much like the 182, but it's a little richer, as you can see. And that could come, once again, filter it into the white. Now I'm going to stop there. I'm going to show you now almost the final touch with this. This is the 175, the dark sepia browny colour, and that can go in. On top. Once again, now this is where you've got to be just a little more careful, because we've got the white that we're contending with here. See, I'm copying this here. But if you do it the way I'm doing it, you'll find it'll work really well. Now there's just a little bit more strength. You see that? So just put just a little more pressure on you. Now this is what we call sparkle, when you can see the paper through. And what you do with that, there's two ways you can do it. If you've got one of these, you can do it with this, which means you can do that. But if you haven't got one of these, you can still do it, because you go back in with the 187, like that. So either way works. Here we are. Now that looks really nice, doesn't it? You can look at the difference between the two halves. Now I'm going to complete this half the same as I've done that, and then I'll show you how we can bring the white back to put the final touches on the hairs. I've almost finished this, and I've brought you nice and close so that I can show you how we're going to finish this off. What we've got to do is try to establish those hairs, and they go right up into the white. And come back again. Like that. Once again, notice how I'm holding the pencil. Not like that. Like that. It really does help. Okay, now that's fine. Just touch the colour shape if you've got it. If you don't worry about it at all, because the white will do the job as well when we put it on. But this does give you just that little bit of extra blend, which is useful. Now it does look as though I've gone over the top, doesn't it, with that? Watch what happens when we bring the white back. Now a nice sharp white, and in a moment I'm going to show you how I sharpen that. Now let's get this. Again, hold the pencil like I'm doing now, because you get, and using the point rather than digging it in that way, use it that way so that you slide the pencil. And if you twist it at the same time, watch those numbers, you'll see that those numbers twist round. You can get some really attractive, and you see, look at the difference that's made. But here is where it makes a difference. We come back into that again, see, up here. Twist the pencil again. Makes them look really natural. Don't go overboard. I think we've got almost there now. Don't think we need to do too much more there. I think we've cracked it. Might be an idea just to run on the edge of this again, because that would have picked up some of the colour that we've got. Like that. There we are. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the other ear. And this time I'll put the picture over this side. Now I'm not going to narrate this, I'm just going to carry on, I'm going to do it. But you've seen how it's done on this ear, and it's virtually the same. I'll be using the same colours over here. Now for the other ear. Just before I start that, I just want to show you what I've got here. This is a cartridge paper. Now, cartridge paper is used to protect the picture and your hand from rubbing on the pastel paper. Quite important. It's also useful if you complete way down here and then want to get back up here, you can also use it just as a protector. So it's just something I would mention, and I always use it. You'll always see it on my pictures. Okay, now I'm going to put that on there, so let's get as close as we can. Always try to get the reference picture as close as you possibly can to the area you're completing. Okay, so let's go now. First of all, the white. Now I'm not going to narrate this. I'm just going to do it, but I'll just step in every now and again if I feel there's something you need to hear. Okay, but it's the same as the other ear. all that remains now is to put the hairs in. Now, I would suggest, if you're right-handed like me, you turn it round. If you're left-handed, you'll probably be okay the other way. But it's a good idea to push rather than drag the pencil. So by turning it round, you get a better angle on your hand. You can perform this task, because what's going to happen is you've got to have a nice sharp white point to dig into the darker tones. Got it? That's the idea. And you can come back this way, like that, and just put just a couple of little hairs going that way. Now on here, this has also got to be done, and what I usually do with this is I leave my pencil on the paper. Now watch this as I do it. Twist it round as you go. Now you're bound to break the odd one or two because I'm pressing quite hard, but it works really well. There we are. Done. So that's 2 ears done. Now we're going to tackle the top of the head. Once again, refer to your notes. You see it tells you the colours to use, the 101, the 182, 273, all the colours, except actually you won't be using the green one here, and not until you get to the eye. So we already know what we're doing. Keep the picture to one side and start the ball rolling. And once again, always start with a white. Now I would suggest what you do is start here, although I said it's the top of the head. Start there, and again, that's got to be very, very strong. Now, you see what I mean about the lines? You don't see any of the pencil lines, do you? It's because we're covering them up. Now, once again, push the white well into the paper. Now, I won't bore you and make you watch all of this. Just a little bit to show you how this is all going to work. Come down here, and you can come down here with the white as well, but I wouldn't come any further. I'd stop there. Make sure that joins up. There we are. Now this white comes back in here a little bit, like that, and like that. Now that's where the white, as you can see on the reference picture, let's put it over here. It might be easier for me. There we are. Now where the white twists around here, it's got to hit. If you do happen to overdo the white, that's not a problem. You just put the darker colour into it. When you get an area like this, where you have some and some, you literally do some and some. Leave some of the paper so that when we put the dark colours on, it's going to register. You got it? Like that. So I'm going to finish that off with the white across there, then I'll bring you in the next colour. And now we're going to put the 182 into all of the dark markings. We'll be following this with a couple of colours, the grey and the 175. So you don't have to make this too strong. Yeah. I'll do a couple more, then I'll continue this It's very dark on the top of the head there, so let's just do that. Might seem weird that you're putting the brown on when you look at that and it looks like it's a very dark colour, which it is. But you need to put a cushion on with the dark colours, otherwise they're too fierce. I'll do half of that, and then I'll follow it with the next two colours. Got to finish all that off in a moment. Let's look at over here. I'll bring this over this time, over this side. Always got to make sure you can see it. I have a habit of going off camera. This is the grey, and that's going to be put in. A bit like that, really. Now this time, we want to make it look a bit like that. So, where we were putting the white in, leaving some of the pastel paper, you can do the same with the grey. It looks more natural then, that way. So that's the second colour. Now the third colour is the dark one. Now that is dark. You'll notice that every now and again I blow the dust away. Well, that's really important to do that, otherwise it obscures the detail. Anyway, you see the difference it makes now. But by putting those colours underneath there, you get the softer look as opposed to a hard look if you just use this one. And that comes in with this sharp edge there. Now you can beginning to see how this is shaping up now. I just finish this off and then I can continue, and again I'll show you little bits of that as we go along. Now this goes right up into that white, so it doesn't make it too isolated then. That's quite a dark area there, so there's a bit more pressure on the pencil. Always work in the direction of the fur. You'll see me say that so many times in the picture, but it is very important. Now, when you get to that stage, you don't want to be too forceful with the colour shaper. Nothing wrong with doing a little bit. Let me just show you what I mean. But don't overdo it, because you want to keep the fur-like quality to this. So put it in, but I'm using the edge, you can see that. Now that's got to also, we haven't really done this yet, but that will also be filled in eventually, and like that. Got the idea of that? I think that as far as I'm concerned, that would be all of the blending that I would do with the colour shaper. I wouldn't do any more. I'd keep it like that. Okay, let me carry on. Watch me as I finish. Well, this is going to look really good. Once we get to over here, we'll have quite a large area done. Now just using the 175, just bring some of the stronger hairs in. Follow the reference picture. You see that what I've done, lightly, you don't have to be too strong with this. It's just meaning that you've got to bring some of the tones in, like that. Keeping strictly in the direction that you see the fur. Now you'll notice one thing that I haven't done. I haven't done that area, this area. And we need to do it separately because it's slightly different. You see, this is too stark, so you've got to bring some of that colour back into it. Okay. Now, the other thing we're going to do is blend it. Again, same principle applies. You want to get rid of the sparkle. And the sparkle is all of the pastel paper showing through. It's much nicer if it looks like that. But only do those areas that are intense. And it's got to be quite strong on top there because it looks good. When we put a background on, in a little while, that will come into its own. Now that's the easy bit. Now the harder ones are these, because you've got to be careful with these. Otherwise they look smudged. So just take your time and pick your spots like that. Okay. I wouldn't bother to go in there at all. I'd leave that alone because it's looking good. So what about this then? Right, well that is the same idea. We put the white in, it's the same. But this time, if you know cats at all, they've got very short fur across the top of the noses. So we emulate that with the pastel pencil. Instead of putting long strokes, we put shorter ones. Makes sense, doesn't it? Now it's also change of colour here as well, which is interesting. Here we've got grey, and here we've got the ochre. So I think what we'll do while we're here, we'll work our way down the nose, or top of the nose. I can show you how that works. Still get the white in. So let's follow that down. All short hairs. There is an emphasis of light, you can see right in the centre here, which means you've got to put a little bit more pressure on it. Like that. And fade that out on both sides. And then the rest of it can be a little bit lighter. And this eventually will give us a rounded look to the nose. There we are. Now that's pretty good. We've also got the sand coloured paper we're using here, and that also helps with the tone. Right, now the next colour is the grey. Now it's grey here and the 182 and the 187 here, but there's still a little bit of 182 in that. But let's start with the grey. Same idea, short, sharp strokes. You'll be amazed how good this looks, and it fades into the area we've done above. But again, strictly following the fur direction, and generally as an overall colour, that is good enough. But you'll also notice that there's some depth either side. What you do there is put just a little more strength, just a little, like that, and fade it. It's good, isn't it? Now that can also fade up, look, because we've also got it stretching. If you look at the reference picture here, and then look at mine, you'll see what I'm doing. It all ties up. Because they've got a bridge or a dip here, and this is what we're doing at the moment, putting that dip in. Now I'll just do this section, then I'll work the other side. To make that darker, well, we use the darker colour. 175 or two 175. In case you're wondering, what, I've got too many pencils here. They're both 175, but one's a bit bigger than the other one, so it's easier for me to show you without getting my fingers in the way. Very light touch now, no strength needed. The colour will do itself, do it for you. See, look at the difference that's made. Now, just to show you it's not a fluke, let me go the other side. We want to put a little bit more strength in here. Just a little bit more effort in it. And that can also be, as this one has got a bit of shading in there, so as this. And the 175. That can come down. And you can marry the whole thing up if you like I'm doing. We've done it separately, but really it needs to be looking like that. No reason why you can't put white back in either, if you feel you need to. There you go, now that looks good, doesn't it? There's a little more light in the centre than there is on the side, just as there is down here. Then you just put a bit more white in there as well. So what about this bit? Right, well, we can still put the grey in, but we don't put too much of it, because it's largely going to be ochre. I've got a mark there, which I don't like. Now, I've got a pencil eraser here, which I can use. That means it could be opportunity for me to show you how I use it. I'll use my bigger one. Now, we've got two ends to the pencil eraser. One is soft and one is hard. If you get a stubborn mark like that, it's best to use a hard end. Now, you watch as I get rid of that. Don't know what, don't put it in, folks. It's on the line drawing, and for some reason, there you go, gone. One of the beauties of the pastel pencil, it does erase. And down the other side. Now, let me just show you how this works. We want two colours, we want that one and that one. This is the 182 and the 187. First of all, the 182. Start by putting the depth here, that bit there. Put that in. Don't press hard though, let the pencil do the work. And now as you draw it towards the centre, this area, you just ease off the pressure so it becomes lighter until you get to there. You can still put it in there, but not very strong. Let's do it the other side. And leave the middle alone. But there's no reason why this shouldn't be. I haven't put any up here yet. A little bit of this up there as well. But the emphasis was the grey. That's why we used the grey. There we are. Got it. Now what about the other one? This one can come in with a 187's a little stronger. Same idea. Ease it off as you come to the centre. That lovely round nose we've got there. Don't really need that up there. But just to finish this off, just a little bit of the very dark sepia 175. Just a little bit of emphasis on there. Now I wouldn't do any more than that because you can always return to that later on. Isn't that lovely? Right, well that's got that. I think the next thing we're going to do now, I usually like to go around the eye rather than do the eyes. I know we're dying to do those eyes, and I'm sure you are too, but it's better to do this area. Now this area and this area is the same as that area. So what I'll do, I should be working through this using the colours. Let me show you the colours again. White, grey, or the other way around, the 182 and 273, and of course the 175. Right, and it'll be in the order that I've just given you there. And what I'm going to do this area here, around the eye. I might come down the darker markings as well. And then it gives us a framework, and then we can put the eyes in. Got it? Okay, now watch as I complete this. I won't narrate it, but if I do think you ought to know something, I'll come back and explain it to you. Now, a good idea here would be to apply the grey to the rim of the eye. This just encompasses the eye and gives you a little bit of like a framework. Take your time with this. Follow that with the 182. Now that gives us, to say, a really good framework for the eye itself. Now in the centre of the eye, again, use the same colour. 273 rather, and 182. Now you can do this the other way around, but on the instructions you'll find that I do say that you put the white in first. It's entirely up to you, but what I would do is do with the way I'm showing you. Then follow that with the white highlight. Now you need to be fairly strong with this colour because these colours are not going to change very much. Then use the white in the whole area. This can be, again, quite strong, but not as strong as the pupil because you'll need to come back into that pupil, the highlights, as time goes on. Make sure you cover all the paper. Great. Now that's gone really well. So next, what we want to do is to put some of this colour into the white. Now, because we've put a fairly strong application in that, we don't need to be very strong with this. It's just giving just a little bit of tone to the eye, very lightly. Don't put pressure on at all. And the 273 grey in there as well. Okay, now that's good. All the time I would redo the highlights, making sure you've got those as you want them. Now, the next colour is the green. The first time we've used it, but you'll see how important it is. Now, what we want to do with the green is follow on, but we don't put it everywhere. Now, the reason I haven't put a line here is it would show up. So you're going to have to judge that. Bring the green in, round circular movements. Now you can begin to see it coming now. Now what we've got to do now is reinstate the white that surround the eye. So let's do that down here. But because we put that tone in, the grey and the ochre, it's never going to be lily white, which is what we don't want. But you can put some pressure on now, because we've established that. Great. Now, what I would do now is just on the edge of that green, put just a little bit of now very little colour. I'm not pressing hard at all. But you see how that's looking really good now. These are still base colours, but now we've got to go in with some strength. So with our 175, preferably a nice sharp one, carefully, really carefully work your way around the eye, trying not to encroach areas you've put in. There you go. Like that. Now the other thing I want you to do is to try to put in here a little grey. And just barely, but just a little touch of the 175 in there. So that gives us that effect. Bring back the white. You'll always be having to do this because when you use these darker colours, they do tend to dominate. So what we've got to do now is to come back in with the white and re-establish that. On the outside edge of this, you can then just push the white into what you've done with the just rather nice effect you get then, right, like that. On the top, again, make sure we've got. You're closing in on the eye a little, you see. Now we have to come back again with the dark colour, 175. But what you'll notice is it's the cat has got a starey look. And we can also bring that down there as well. Keep blowing the dust away because you can see it can interfere. Make that a little darker. You can see on the reference picture we have some dark there. Just re-establish that just a little. Now that's going very well now. Now what we're going to do is do the pupil. Now you've got to work round those lights like that. This is why you've got to have a sharp pencil. Okay, now we're nearly there, but not quite. You see, we've got some shadow there just underneath. Now that's put in by using the grey, first of all, round circular movements, like that. This makes all the difference to the eye. And if you're brave, use just a little spot of the 175, but don't press hard. But look at the difference that's making. Re-establish once again the light in the eye. And now we can be a little bit bolder with the green. Press a little harder. And I think we'll probably leave that. Just one thing I think I will do though is just re-establish that line there I put in, and also carefully put just a little spot of white in there on top of the grey that we put in. There you go. Do I want any more? Well, maybe just a little touch up here and there with the other colours. This is the 182 which we did originally. There we are. Now that looks absolutely gorgeous. So what I'm going to do is the other eye exactly the same way. Now it's almost finished. Just a couple of little things we can do. Just use the 175 just to put a few little details on the top there. And then I've done it the other side, just expand them just a little bit, make sure they match up, both eyes match up. And I think we'll probably leave it at that. I'm very pleased with that. Just got to get the make sure you've got sharp pencils when you do this. Both eyes have got to look the same. Okay, what's next? Well, what's next is we're going to move ourselves down, finish the nose off, and this area here. That's our next job. Now for the nose. It's always a good idea, just as we did with the eye, to do a little bit of this around. I've started the ball rolling here. Don't have to finish it. Just put the obvious white area here. Okay. Okay, now the nose. Well, now the nose, here we've made it really strong. We really made sure that you've got a good layer of pastel on there. Nice heavy coat. But here we don't want to do that. We just want to put it in, and you only put it in where you see the lighter areas, okay? Not in the dark areas, because that will, we use the darker colours for that, straight on. If you put white too much white underneath. When you intend putting the darker colour on it, it weakens it. So we don't want to do that. And that's just about right, I would say. But you see, it's lighter than that is. Okay, next thing is the 182. Now this, again, has to be a light coat because we don't want it to be too strong. So, and we will be putting the light back on again. These little round circular movements, very light touch. The pencils are very responsive, you don't have to press hard. Now that's nice. Now I would also at this stage put the other one on, which is the 187. So it's 182, this is 187. And that gives you this sort of pinky-ish look to it. And then we can put the white back. Now here, what we're looking at here, you see we have just white tones in there with some darker tones. Well, I'm going to do that by using the 187 generally first of all, and then go back into the areas that you can see are just slightly darker. There and there and just there and there. Okay. And then what you do then is come back in with the white pencil and go back over those areas. Get rid of the dust. That's very important to get rid of that dust. It can obscure what you're trying to do. Okay? Now we can return to this anyway, which is not by no means finished, but you see the idea. Now, I would suggest what we do here, we put the 182 on the darker part of the nose there, and also follow it around, putting in those nostrils. Let's just do one section of this, and then you'll get the idea. And come down on that line, like that, and then come up there. Fade it as you get up to the top. Right? Don't have to press hard because we've got a darker colour going on there, which will do the job. Now we can then just, you see how that works. You see that? Now I'm going to complete this half of the nose, and then you can get a good idea of how it's going to work out. Now this is the 175 going on, and again now we've already put that colour here, so we can tie that up now with that, like that. See, very subtle. It needs to be a bit darker than that, but the nostril, and then we can follow it through like that, and with just a little hint going up there like that. Got it? And what I'm going to do now is finish this off by putting the 187 back in again. This time what we're doing is trying to follow the reference picture. Don't forget too, we got white there, so if you do overshoot like I've just done there, just bring it back in just a little so that we can just make it just that little crisper. Now that's nicer. And just a little more strength just in there. And that's finished. And the difference between that and that. Now let's do the other side. Down with the 182 to start with. Then 187 to add just a little bit more depth to it, and then 175. And we can add just a little of the 175 on top of that dark, just to darken that up a little bit more. Now, see, now that's looking really nice. Finishing touch, 187. Just to put just a little bit more interest in it. You see, now that looks really nice, doesn't it? There you go, one of those done. Quite simple, quite quick. What I'm going to do now is follow on through here. Now, there's no real need to see me do all of this because you've already seen it done up here. But what I'll do is I'll work my way around and I'll come down to about there. And then I'll bring it back in because I want to show you how we can work on the longer fur when we get down to here. So watch me as I proceed through. Work with me if you like, as I do each section. And I'm going to start by, let's just start off here again. Those little markings go right across the top of them because we can make them much darker than that when the time comes. Now what we've got here is, you see here we've got some light. Well, that light can come down quite strong, put a lot of pressure on that. Like that, and then that. And then here it's a lighter tone. You can see the difference there between the two. Now here it's very light, here it's not so light, and there it's very light again, and here it's not so light again. You get the idea of this anyway as I proceed, because this is going to have colour on top of it, this isn't, and that isn't. So let me carry on with that. Watch me as I complete the face. Now this area here is quite complicated. I've given you these marks now, and I'll show you what they're for in a minute. But what I want to do is to fill this in. Now, what you do here is you fill it in nice and strong, and you will still see those marks. Okay? And this is what you do. I'll do just this little bit here, just 3 layers, and show you how it works. Nice and strong. Really put a lot of pressure on here because the white is very strong and it needs to come out bright. So you cover the paper. Okay. Now, what do we do about this? Well, what we do with this, folks, is this. Get your colours. If you haven't got one of these, forget this action because I'm going to show you how you can actually do it. Use the dust that we've got there just to push it into. Now, what if you haven't got one of these? Well, then all you do simply is you push in with the white. You can do that anyway if you want. But what we want to do is to use the dust that I've got on the paper, if you can. Let's carry on with the colour shaper for the moment, because it is a great asset. Just there, just to push the dust in, and then blow it away. Now, what we do now is quite clever. We use just the grey, which is a 273, no other colour. Now, first of all, the only thing I have got to do, I've got to put this marking in, and I haven't got it in yet, so let's do that. And with the 182, and that stops there. Now we put the 175 on top of it, so now we've got that marking in. Good. Now, what we do with this is all those little indicating marks, we put the grey in like that. Now I'm going to do this all the way down so you can see how it works. If you're looking at that and saying, well, it doesn't look like that, Colin, it will do when I finish though. This is quite clever. Now I'm just going to put just a little bit more. When I come to here, I'm just going to make it just a little more. It's best to do it a few times rather than one strong application. Now, when you've done that, you can then pull the colour from there into the rest of it, but not too far. Just come down so far like that. Let's do it again. Some under there. And now, if you've got the colour shaper, you can continue with that. Just use it as though you're using a pencil. Just bring the colour down into it. If you haven't got the colour shaper, use the white again. The white is a very good blender. Like that. Now, the other thing you can do is you can go just right up where you have the shadow at its strongest. Put another application of grey in. Now I'm now going to show you how we make that work. I've also got just a little spot of that 182 in there, so let's just put a bit of that in, just there. It's left over from the face. Makes it look quite attractive. Okay, so what do we do with this? Well, what we do, I'm going to turn it round. Watch this. I've turned our pussy on his head, and what we've got here is a nice strong white, and we just come back into it like that. And I'll continue that down there. Turn it back the other way. There we go. And there we have our... If you want to be really fussy, now this is only if you want to be fussy, you can then pull some of that colour as well into the white. Don't destroy what we've done already. It's up to you. Although I think this looks okay, the way I've done that. Okay. Now the same thing can apply in this area, just here, look. Colour shaper again could be used here. Just pull the colour down from there into the white. You haven't got one of these, you just use the white or the grey to do the same thing, and you get a really subtle, nice tone in there, as you can see. Looks very nice, doesn't it? What I'm also going to do is make that just a little stronger, just there, where the cat's mouth would be, just like that. There we are. Now that looks really good, doesn't it? So I'm going to continue with this all the way along here and right down to here now, because I'm nearly finished. So watch me as I complete all that, and then we'll do the fur here. Fur here and here is slightly different. You can see it's a lot darker. But I'll come in and talk to you before I finish that bit. Now we've got the very large area of very dark fur there. And we've got a couple of other areas here. I'll show you those separately. But here, because we're using mainly the white and the grey, I'm going to put the grey on first this time. Now, when you get to the section here, it fades. So I'll show you how I do that. In fact, I'll just show you that section there. The white goes, the fur comes across this dark area, but here the dark goes across the white. You'll see what I mean when I do that in a minute. Now, I don't think it's really necessary, but I think I will put just a little bit of the 182 in there as well, because we've used it all the way along there. Okay, that's fine. Now, I'm going to be a bit more fussy now, because this is a large area of dark. I'm just going to make sure that I've got that, the white and the grey. I'm not so worried about this side, but I am that side. That looks good. Before we go in with the big guns, and this is 175. And we do the same idea again. We go quite tight up into that white, because I'm going to show you how you can put white on top of that. It ain't easy, but it looks great if you can pull it off. Now, when you come down this side, you want to fade it a little bit as you come to the edge. Quite strong there. But as you come to the edge, where I said it was, when you fade it out slightly. Now, if you've got the colour shaper, we can use it. Get rid of the dust though, that's really important. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm using corner of this. If you haven't got this, don't worry about it. You can blend it with the pencils. And we can just pull that down. Now we're mixing the white and the grey together at this point. It's like this area. And I don't mind if the white goes back into the grey there. Now, if you can't do this, don't worry, just put the stripe in. But it does look good if you can pull it off. Right, now, that's great. And what I'm going to do is, let me just turn this round just a little bit so I can get my better angle on it. Make sure you can still see it. We can just pull some of that in then. Again, if you've got the colour shape, you can do it. If you haven't, use a pencil for it. Like that. Now that looks really nice. It's just a nice little finish there. And we can still put the grey in. I just suggest the grey rather than the dark colour here, and just to make it fluffy at that edge. That's what I'm doing. What about here? Well, this is a different matter altogether. Let's just move this away, and I'll show you how to do this. I'm going to show you again, but this is really interesting. You see, I've already indicated that we've got the fur, the white fur going over the top. By the way, I did that. But the other thing you can do is you can use the white pencil, hold it like I'm holding it, and the important thing here is to twist it. So work in the direction that we see the fur lying in and twist it. You have to twist it. If you don't, you'll bring the white, the dark grey back into the white, which we don't want here particularly. Like that. So you just make that just a little bit more obvious. Now that's quite hard, so again, don't be too unhappy if you can't do it. It takes a lot of practice. But if I turn it round, you'll see how nice that looks. Now I'm going to do all of that like that, but what about these over here? Let's do this one, because both of these are the same. Let's bring the picture back so you can see what I'm up to. Move it over a bit so you can see it. There we are. This is what I'm trying to do, this here. So we put the white in again, but not quite so strong this time. We're going to put the grey into it. Adjust the grey with just a hint of 175, just a hint. But it's the grey mainly here. And same idea as I did here, you can work it into the white. Might be best to do that first, all the way down, until it fades when it gets to there. Now I'm going to do all of this because it's not going to take me very long. Fades when it gets to there. And so just a hint of this, not too much. And I think that's it. But what we do, turn it round, and the same procedure I showed you back up here. Come back in, twist the pencil, and they amalgamate together really nicely. Good, done. So let me finish that off. I'm going to do this the same as I did that, and then we're looking at the background. Now for the background. You might wonder when you look at the picture why I haven't put any whiskers on or little tufts of hair on here. And there's a very good reason for that, folks, because we're going to be rubbing very, very close to right up close, in fact, to the subject. If I was to put all those on, the whiskers actually aren't so bad, in fairness, but there's one that stretches right over here, and that goes over the background. So we've got to do the background first. And I've got the white, you see, I've got 3 whites here. Well, I'm very lucky, aren't I? But I've got lots of pencils, and I'm doing it so that I can do this in one go. Otherwise, I've got to keep sharpening the pencil. And you see, I've got particularly a point on it either. We don't need that if you're using a background, because you're using the side of the pencil, which I'm going to show you now. The only other colour I'm going to be using is the green. And it's going to turn out like that. A lot of people, particularly when you're starting out, are frightened of the background. You think, gosh, I've done a lovely picture here. I'm going to spoil it with the background. Well, I can understand that, but this is not complicated, folks. And as you see, if you follow my instructions to the letter, do exactly what I do, you'll find you'll be able to do it. And it does make such a difference. We'll take a mental image of this now. Let's move this away, out of the way. And imagine it now, and then imagine it with the background. Well, you won't be able to do that because you'll be able to replay the video and see what it looked like beforehand. So let's get going. Now, to start off with, I'm going to you have to turn it round. You've got to do that. So let's start up in this corner, up here. Use the side of the pencil. Go up right up close to the picture. Now, you don't particularly want to touch it, but if you do, don't worry, because we can bring that back. Use the side. You see, I'm using the side of that. Yep. Now, it's going to take quite a while, so I'll just do this little bit. And you see that I'm creating quite a lot of dust. Now, this time, don't blow it away, because that will all be incorporated in the picture. Go right up close to the edge of the tape. Now, the other thing, what about when you get down there? If I'm going to put the white on there, I've got white and white together. Let me show you how to get over that. Make sure you've got lots and lots of. What you don't want to do is to have any pastel paper showing through. You see all the dust on there? Well, now I'm going to blend that in with my finger. Now, what do we do when we get right up close to that? Well, that's where you have just a little bit of difficulty, because if you've got a colour shaper, it's great. If you haven't, tap it away so that the dust falls away. And you see I've left some there. So let's get the colour shaper out. If you haven't got the colour shaper, just go back in with the white again, like that. And you can do that all the way around. But if you have got the colour shaper, make sure you clean it off with your finger. Don't wash these. I haven't washed any of mine ever since I've had them. And I've had them for years. And I just use my finger or my thumb to clean it with. And what you can do is you can get right up close with that. Now here, this is where we have this problem of white against white. Now I can just see there my original lines, my little indicating lines, and you probably will too. But by the time we get around the corner, you might forget where you are. So what we do then is bring the green in. Like that. In fact, I might as well do this section so you can get something to compare it with. The green can go on top of the white. Side of the point again, don't dig it in that way, otherwise you'll start marking the paper. Now I'm being tentative to start with because I want to go right up close to the subject. And I suggest you do the same. Don't be too heavy-handed at this stage. And I would rub it in like that. Once again, tap away, use a colour shaper to get right up close. I can get quite close with my finger, and you'll be able to do the same, but there is a risk of touching the animal. It's not so much that you're going to smudge the animal, you can bring that back into the background. You don't really want to do that. But now you see we have a distinct difference between the cat and the fur. Okay, so that's worked out. Now what I'm also going to do now, and I'll show you, in fact I'll show you in two stages. I'll leave that section alone and just do this. Do another coat. This time, be a little bit more ambitious because now you've seen it and you understand it. We can be just a little stronger. But do it in two coats, don't try to do it in one. It will work, but you could end up with marks on the paper because your temptation would be to press too hard. And now you will see a difference between the two. Once again, use the colour shaper just on the edges. Now I've done some very elaborate backgrounds, but I don't suggest you do that here. Settle for what we've got there. Now you can see the difference between them. So white, one coat of green, two coats of green. That's it, finished. Just to show you though, to encourage you really, of what we can do here, let me just show you. Just this little section. What we can do, and what I'm going to do, is to bring the grey back and the white, and let me show you how we can do this. Now what we can do is we can then go over the top of the background, like that. Maybe with a bit of grey as well. And here. Maybe just a little bit of the 182 as well. Look nice there. Like that. So you can reinstate the edge. And here, where I've used the dark colour, again, I can only do this because that's all I've got my double coat of green on. And there we are. Now that bit is finished. So anyway, I've given you enough information, so I can get on with this now. And when you see it again, it will all look like that. The only area I won't do anything with is just this section here. So I'll bring it round here and leave this because I want to show you how you marry the cat with the background. I've almost finished the background. I've just got this bit to do. Rub that in. There we are. Now that's all finished apart from this little section. Now, how do we do that? Well, white again. Now the reason I've left this, obviously to show you, but also your memory then is still remembering where that white should come to. It's not critical, to be honest, but what we've got to do is melt the subject into the background. I've got plenty of white still. Now the thing you've got to do here is use another finger. So just transfer that to that finger there, at least for the white. So that comes down. Now you can't see the join, but you certainly will in a minute or two. Now that's got that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to leave. Let me just have a look at the reference picture for a minute. You see, you'll have this to refer to. This is what we're looking for, like that. So now we can bring the green up to it, up to there. So let's just put that so you can see both. There we are. Now it's not, you don't have to be exactly the same as mine. So that's a little bit coming into there. And we want a little bit of white coming up here. So if we just sort of do that, say, there. Now that's more or less the same. Now we can put green into the white, but we can't put the white into the green very easily, so we've got to be careful. Make sure you've got plenty of it on. You'll know when you've got enough on when you see all that dust. Now here we rub until we get to the white. Now go right up close, but don't touch it, the edge at the moment. What we're doing is combining the grey with the green now. Okay, get rid of the dust, blow it away, because we won't want that anymore. Now here we amalgamate it with the edge of your finger, like that. And what it looks then, it gives the impression that the cat is coming out of a cloud, which is what I'm looking for. Turn it round. You've got the idea of that? Looks nice, doesn't it? Can you put white back in? Yes, we can. So that's now some white back in again. And go the other way. Now the white can come into the green. And have that sort of effect. Lovely. And this can also, grey can also be used into the green as well. Like that. about this up here? Well, same thing really. We can bring the white back. I'm turning around because I've got a better angle. And come in with the white. Like that. And the grey. In fact, you better the other way around for that. Just smooth that edge in. And then the grey. Just smooth the edge. I don't think we're going to come any further than that. That is fine. There you go. Lovely. So we're nearly finished, but we're not quite finished now, because what I want to do is to go over the animal again with the pencils. So I'm going to sharpen some pencils up. I've already got the white sharp, but I need to have these sharp, grey, and I probably won't need any more. Maybe I'll use those 4 pencils. That's the 273, 182, 175 and white. Sharpen them, make sure they're nice and sharp, and then I'll come back and we'll finish the picture off. The finishing touches to the picture. I'm going to use these 4, nice and sharp. You can start where you like, but I'm going to start here. Make sure you protect your picture with the cartridge paper. You don't want to smudge it now. Here we just need the grey. Lovely. Now the white. I'd turn this round as you do it. I find this easier. Like this. Now we've got to bring the white over the top. Remembering the direction of the fur. Twist the pencil as you do it. I've showed you how to do this now. Like that. Now just there, we've got white, grey, and a little of the 182. So let's put it all in. And 182 too. Up here, we've got the dark colour, and I would put the lighter colours in. If you've got dark against it, just put the dark in. Put a few little fluffy hairs like that. It'll go easily go over the background. Twist the pencil paper round and make sure, because some of the background colour will probably have transferred itself onto the image, so you've got to get rid of that. Make it nice and crisp. Like that. Now, do you remember I said we got some tufts? Well, I can now put them in. There's a few little tufts coming up the top of the ears. It always looks endearing. That's enough. Turn it round, keep turning it round. You want a natural angle of your hand. That's it. Now this, we don't want to go too high, but we want some hairs to be higher than others. I'm very conscious that I might be rubbing my sleeve on the image, and that would be awful to do that. See? Don't make it too regular. Like that would be nice. Just every now and again, and the odd hair can, like that. Very attractive. Now the other side. got that tuft again. And down the other side. And we come to where we've already done this once. I'll just add just a little more to it. There we are. And we can call that a day. Well, not quite. Because you ain't got no whiskers. Now we've got to put them on. Again, you want to use a nice sharp white pencil. So here we are. Here's my white pencil. Yep. Right, the one I think I'll use. I've got several here, but this is one I'll use. And now this is, people find this really hard, and you'll find it hard too. You've got to have a sharp white, that's for sure. And you have to zip them in. Now what I mean by that is you've got to start here and you've got to zip it. Let me just do one to show you what I mean, like that. See? Now, it might seem easy, but it isn't. Just a few more. Like that. Okay, but I would also put a couple of dark ones in as well. You've got to be careful with these. I wouldn't do zip these as I did with the white. You just put a few. Looks attractive, doesn't it? There's also a couple up here, so if you want to feel that you need a couple up there, do a couple like that. Don't do too many though. It's so easy to overdo this. Just a few. Now this time we're going this way. Let's get a sharper white, maybe it'd be better here. And let's come from here and zip them in. Now they're not going to show up that much on the white fur, so this is why I say it's always a good idea to put a few dark ones in as well. There we are. And I'd leave it at that. Well, I really hope you've enjoyed this. I've certainly enjoyed showing it to you. Let's bring over the pencils in again. There we are. Only one white there, Colin. There we are. 2, 4. Are we missing one? Oh well. Here we are. Those are the 6 pencils we used. Yes, I hope you've enjoyed it. And all it remains really is for me to say good luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you on another picture very, very soon. Bye for now.